been so hard, very hard. Never, I think, in my life would I have imagined that we would have something like this, a catastrophe of an unequal disaster.
It seemed to come out of nowhere, an unstoppable cloud of smoke, of fire, of heat. Only now are residents of Maui in Hawaii able to look back and pick through the rubble to find what's left of their belongings, their homes, to find out what has happened to their loved ones. We're going to dig into the worst natural disaster to ever hit Hawaii. So far, nearly 100 people have been confirmed dead, making this the deadliest wildfire in the U.S. in more than a century. The fire tore through the historic town of Lahaina on Maui. What remains of the town is now reminiscent of cities leveled by things like bombs from World War II.
To be totally honest, there's nothing to see except full devastation. So the buildings are almost non-existent. Even it was so hot that even metal contorted so that you can't believe what the building was.
Governor Josh Green says now that cell service has been reestablished on the island, the numbers of missing persons has dropped by hundreds. But he says there's still hundreds unaccounted for. Green says the official death count will continue to rise.
They will find 10 to 20 people per day probably until they finish. And it's probably going to take 10 days. It's impossible to guess, really.
The fires are mostly contained. Now rescue teams are focusing on trying to find missing people and make sure that survivors have what they need, the food, the water, the shelter. North Carolina's Samaritan's Purse airlifted 17 tons of relief supplies to the island today. Members of the U.S. National Guard work to pick through the rubble and to find anything that they can. It's not an easy task. Trying to help a devastated town on an island in the middle of the ocean is more than difficult.
There are always logistical challenges in a disaster like this, and I think that probably a little more so than normal because of the situation of being located on an island.
Thankfully, some people already on the island are stepping up. Local businesses like the Westin in Maui are serving meals to its employees. Family members are sheltering inside the hotel.
We got a lot of food on property. Why let it go to waste? We do it breakfast, boom, lunch, dinner. Plan it for a few days, and we just serve it. We let people know who's ever here. We got breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Many people in Maui are really upset with the Hawaiian government's effort to evacuate people before the fires hit. Some survivors say they had simply no warning of the incoming fire or any order to evacuate. Hawaii confirmed its siren system designed to warn residents of natural disasters like hurricanes and volcanic eruptions. It never went off. The governor says the fire moved too fast to save people.
When you see mostly fatalities and very few injuries, that tells you it was a natural disaster. Like if you put a fire truck in the way of the flames that were coming through at 1,000 miles an hour, the fire truck would have been incinerated in addition to the people.
The state's attorney general will be leading into an investigation to find out why Hawaii's emergency system failed. Now supplies are getting to the island. Now we can reach the survivors who can tell their stories. And a theme from those stories that stays prevalent seems to be just how quickly the fire came through.
I go out onto the field and look at it, and I'm just horrified. It's just so much heavy smoke being pushed at such a high velocity. Like doesn't even rise. It's just being funneled straight into Lahaina from right across the highway from Lahaina, like maybe a couple hundred yards or something. And there's a couple houses right in that spot, and they're going up, boom, boom, and there's a gas station right there, and it eventually goes boom.
Many people had to jump in the ocean to escape those flames and that smoke.
So we went and we sat in one of the front of the boats, and then we could see them start catching on fire, and all the slots, the wooden slots in front of the boats were all on fire, and then they started blowing up one after another. And we ended up getting in the water.
The fire is impacting people all over the island, whether they were residents or tourists. In fact, one couple from the Triad were enjoying their vacation when they got stuck behind a wall of fire.
I was so scared the first night that we stayed because of the wildfires. I was afraid a fire was going to break out and we had nowhere to go. You know, we didn't know where to go.
A 5-day trip to Hawaii turned nightmare. Tabitha Westmoreland and her boyfriend Chris Hagee say they only spent one night at their Hawaiian resort before they were forced to stay in a Jeep for 2 nights.
There were 60, 70 mile an hour wind gusts, so you can imagine what it felt like sitting in a vehicle all night long and not knowing if their fire is going to pop up around you. Vehicle shaking.
They parked close to the harbor with other people and saw things they could not unsee.
There was people jumping in the harbor because they were over there taking pictures of stuff at Front Street because it was closed. Those people were jumping in the harbor to save their lives.
The couple says resources are low and thankful locals help with water, food, and necessities.
They give us a roll of paper towels, which I can say I used for a pillow for 2 nights in the Jeep.
Their situation is getting better. They eventually found a place to stay for a night. Then the roads reopened so they can get their belongings from the resort. The couple says they got signs from above that they would be okay.
The other rainbow was just right in front of us, literally. So we had a sign of relief that everything was going to be okay.
Well, this disaster, of course, begs the question, how did these wildfires happen? We still don't know the exact cause. What we do know is that Hawaii was under a red flag warning for fire risk. Authorities say the fire was fueled by a mix of land and atmospheric conditions that create what they call fire weather. The islands have been dry for a long time now. Combine that with low humidity, high winds, it creates good conditions for wildfires to spread quickly. Hurricane Dora, the storm moving across the Pacific Ocean, then hundreds of miles south of Hawaii, created that 60-mile-an-hour wind that fanned the flames. There's also concern that dangerous toxins released by the burning wreckage could create problems in the future. The fire melted plastic and rubber and metals and spewed it into the air and into the water supply. Hawaii's state toxicologist Diana Felton says it could take weeks to clean up the pollutants. Maui's water officials say that drinking tap water, even taking showers, can expose residents to dangerous chemicals. You can help the survivors of Maui. You can head to our website at WFMYnews2.com to find resources to donate. As you saw, organizations like the American Red Cross are on the ground offering to help feed, clothe, and house people. Donors have already given millions of dollars to organizations like the Red Cross and the Hawaii Community Foundation and the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. Now, they're all saying you don't have to donate right away because experts say waiting even just a week or two can be helpful so that damage assessments can be finished and more money can be pushed to survivors. Of course, this is a developing story that we will continue to update you on.